Bryan Hayes is here with his Harvey's Hot Takes. Bryan will be joining us for Trade Center March the 8th. He joins us every week with his takes on 3 topics in the sports world. One thing I do want to say, oh, there it is, that beautiful Harvey's Original Burger. One thing I do want to say, the Vancouver Canucks are the #1 team in the National Hockey League right now. They have had a terrific season. That being said, Bryan Hayes, the Vancouver Canucks have lost 3 straight for the first time this season, and the Florida Panthers, red hot, just 2 points behind them. How do you think Canucks fans should be feeling right now?
Well, I think I know how they're feeling. I know they're very anxious out there, and Canucks fans have got to grapple with their past failures because it pops up every time they lose a game, let alone 3 in a row. And we understand what happened in that Minnesota game, Jay. That was particularly glaring and embarrassing, quite frankly, for the top team in the NHL. But it has been a magical season. Yet there's so much anxiety in Vancouver. It's a lot like the city of Toronto. The Maple Leafs have their history. Their fan base has their history of constantly being concerned that the 18-wheeler is going off the cliff or, it's going to fall out from underneath them. And I sense the same thing in Vancouver where they just want a Stanley Cup too. They want to get back there. They want to redeem themselves. They want this magical season to continue. And I think what needs to be continued to be brought up with these fans out in Vancouver or Canucks fans wherever they happen to be around the world is this team is legit. We're deep enough into the season. 3 losses in a row. Every other team in the league has done that. Teams are going to run through that. This can be a learning experience. At some point, something was going to break against them, and I think that can be a positive. I'm sure Rick Tocchet is speaking about that daily in that room. It's not always going to be perfect, but Pettersson's still going to be there. JT Miller's still going to be there. Quinn Hughes is still going to be there. Thatcher Demko's still going to be there. They're healthy. They're rocking. It's a bit of a rut right now. I understand the history in Vancouver. I understand the anxiety with Canucks fans, especially consider coming into this year. No one was buzzing about them possibly winning the President's Trophy and being a legitimate cup contender, but that's who they are. That's where they are. They've already made moves like Lindholm and Zadorov. They're a good team. Canucks fans, embrace it. Enjoy the ride because it's been a blast so far, and it's not going to end because they've lost 3 games in a row.
Bryan Hayes, I love that. That's a Toronto radio star telling the Vancouver fan base to relax a little bit. Now we'll get the Toronto radio star to talk about Toronto. How about the Leafs captain, John Tavares? 15 goals this season. Sheldon Keefe, Bryan, has now moved him to the 3rd line. Are you at all surprised that that happened?
Yes, I am, Jay. I am surprised because this has not ever happened with John Tavares, but Keefe has to coach for wins, not to satisfy egos. And again, John Tavares, when he was 7, 8 years old, he was a phenom in the greater Toronto area. He went to the Ontario Hockey League with exceptional status. He was playing in the O when he was 15, and I guarantee he wasn't on the 3rd line when he was 15 in the OHL. First overall to the Islanders, steps right in. He's a stud there. He's obviously been a stud throughout his 5.5 years here in Toronto, but he is getting older. His contract is what it is, but it can't be relevant when you're talking about what is in the best interest of this team. And I love the fact that Sheldon Keefe decided, even though Tavares lost his position due to illness, when he returned, you're going to the 3rd line. Going into Arizona to start the night, you're on the 3rd line. Coming off PP1, the first power play unit, again, something Tavares has been a stalwart on his whole life, not only in the NHL, his whole life. You're coming off that power play unit because it's in the best interest of the team. It's not John Tavares and the Maple Leafs. It's not the core 4 in the Maple Leafs. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the next lesson coming is when Morgan Rielly re-enters the lineup, which of course he will and he should. He's their best defenseman. But when he's out of the lineup, in the last couple of years, they win a lot of games. And I think it's imperative that Morgan Rielly steps in and learns from that lesson. But moreover, Sheldon Keefe continues to learn from the lesson that he's going through right now with John Tavares and apply it to Morgan Rielly. If you need TJ Brodie on the left side and that's going to make your team better, so be it. He doesn't play with Morgan Rielly. If you don't want to mix your deep pairings like Benoit and McCabe, who have been very good, they stay together. Morgan Riley's going to have to find a way to play with someone else. Again, it's long overdue here in Toronto. It's not about the core 4, the core 5 with Rielly. It's about playing for the name on the front as opposed to the name on the back. I get that's a cliche. I guess that's a Lou Lamoriello-ism. But Lou's won a lot of cups, and he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. I think Sheldon Keefe is starting to apply it this week, and I think that's going to be a real positive for the Leafs moving forward.
Brian, you mentioned the Florida Panthers earlier. They are on fire right now. They've won 6 straight. They're first in the East. They've won 10 of their last 11. Are the Cup finalists officially back?
Absolutely, they're officially back, Jay. I'm not sure they ever left, but the East is officially on notice. The Panthers are the team to beat. They are rocking right now. I think, we mentioned Vancouver. The Panthers are chasing them down. They're chasing down a President's Trophy right now. They're certainly chasing down that top seed in the Atlantic Division. Now, I'm not willing to officially bet against the Boston Bruins because they've been so good the last couple of years in the regular season. But at this point, if I had to, I'm saying the Panthers win the division, probably win the East in terms of seeding, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they won the President's Trophy. And right now, they are doing everything. Starting in net, Bobrovsky is playing like a stud, something he did not do during the regular season last year, but he did do in the playoffs. There's no reason to believe come playoff time, Bobrovsky will not be capable of doing almost what he did last year. I don't think he can replicate it completely, but close to that. Defensively, they have been unbelievable recently, Jay, and their best player is back. That's Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk, I think, is the most unique player in this league. I think he might be the most entertaining player in the league, and he is rocking right now in terms of point production, in terms of goal scoring, in terms of being a pest, in terms of creating scrums, everything across the board that Matthew Tkachuk has done since he got to Florida. He is back and maybe better than ever. They're healthy again. They're rocking. If you're Boston, if you're Toronto, if you're Tampa, if you're the Rangers, if you're Carolina, watch out, man. I think you're going through Florida at this point.
And, give Bill Zito credit for hiring Paul Maurice 2 years ago. It didn't start off that well, but boy, Maurice continues to prove he is one of the very best coaches in the NHL. Brian, before we let you go, I want to play you something that our mutual friend Frankie Corrado said on this show Sunday, talking about the Riviera Country Club, home of the Genesis Invitational.
You know what I like? He said Riviera. He didn't say Riv. It's not your buddy. It's Riviera.
That's right.
Okay?
A lot of Canadians, atop the leaderboard at Riv. It was a weird, tough weekend.
Ooh. All right, Brian, how do you respond?
For starters, those chairs are phenomenal. Send me one ASAP, Jay.
They are
ASAP.
great. They are great.
They are spectacular. He's probably right. Like, I didn't realize that Frankie was like an English major, and was so on top of this in terms of being pretentious and making sure that everyone follows along the rules that I guess he has established. But he's probably right. I remember having this conversation when I got to the OHL, which is a humble brag. That's as far as I went. Never made it any further than that. It's the Memorial Cup, not the Mem Cup. I remember I walked in there. I'm like, Mem Cup this year? And a vet pulled me aside. He said, you're a rookie. You have to call it Memorial Cup. Show some respect. So I guess the same thing applies. Sorry, I've never been to Riviera, never been to that golf course. And until I'm actually a member there, I guess Frankie's right on this one. From here on out, it's Riviera. It's the Memorial Cup. It's the Open Championship, not the British Open. I didn't realize Frankie was critiquing the way that, he brought the heat on Sunday, but I appreciate that. I'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah, Frankie does seem like he might have been an English major. At the very least, he's now the TSN Ombudsman. He's the TSN Ombudsman. Just like Harvey's serving Canadians for 65 years, this guy, Bryan Hayes, he's been serving up hot takes since 1983. By the way, 1983 was the year Eddie Rabbitt and Crystal Gale had the number 12 hit on the Billboard charts with You and I. Brian, I hope you and I can do this again next week.
So do I. So do I.
Hot Takes is brought to you by Harvey's. Crispy Chicken BLT, topped your way. It's a beautiful thing.